Hey everyone, Dave here with another Blu-ray DVD collection update video for May 2022. This is the third one of these I've done this month. We're going to be covering some new releases from Viavision, Kicks.com.au, and some titles that I've picked up from Amazon over the last couple of months. Lots to take a look at here, so let's get into it. Alright, as I said, this is the third video I've done for May 2022. In the past two videos I've covered imprint titles and umbrella titles from the last couple of months. If you'd like to check those out, you can check them linked above or at the end of this video if you haven't watched them yet. In this video though, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most recent titles that have been sent over from Kicks.com.au, Viavision, and some stuff that I've personally picked up myself from Amazon as well. Firstly, we're going to get into the stuff sent over from Kicks.com.au. Once again, don't forget, you can head over to Kicks and use the code DAVE15 at checkout to get 15% off your entire order. That includes all in-stock orders, pre-orders, and sale stock. So absolutely anything you can throw into your cart, you can get 15% off using the code DAVE15. Kicking us off is the brand new release of Spider-Man No Way Home. For the first time in cinematic history of Spider-Man, our friendly neighborhood hero is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life from the high stakes of being a superhero. When he asks for help from Doctor Strange, the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. This edition of Spider-Man No Way Home comes in a 2-disc set, including a 4K and Blu-ray disc. Alright, what else is there to say about Spider-Man No Way Home? This is just one of the greatest, most fun Marvel movies ever made. Of course, it's well known by now. It's the meeting of all three of cinema's Spider-Man. We've got Doctor Strange in here as well. We've got all our classic villains coming back together. What is not to love about this? It's just a great cinematic event. I saw it at the cinema 3 times. I watched it again when I got the 4K disc, and I'll watch this over and over and over again for the rest of my life because I absolutely adore it. This 4K issue of the movie is great. It's loaded with like an hour or 2 hours of bonus features that I sat through and just powered through all at once. The transfer, of course, looks absolutely fantastic on the 4K disc. Fantastic colors, looks so cinematic, and it sounds great as well. Like everyone in the world has seen this movie. I don't need to sell this movie to you. Just know it's out there right now. You can pick it up on 4K. You can pick it up on Blu-ray. I believe there's a 3D coming out of this one as well from Random Space Media. So get excited for that one too. But look, love this movie, adore it, and it's finally out there in the world to own. See, we've got the brand new blockbuster from Sony Pictures, Uncharted, starring Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg and based on the video game series. Street smart thief Nathan Drake is recruited by seasoned treasure hunter Victor Sully Sullivan to recover a fortune lost by Ferdinand Magellan 500 years ago. What starts as a heist job for the duo becomes a globe-trotting white-knuckle race to reach the prize before the ruthless Moncada, who believes he and his family are the rightful heirs. This 4K edition comes as a 2-disc set, including the movie on a 4K and Blu-ray disc. I gotta say, I really like this movie. I know there's been a lot of discourse around this online. It's not similar enough to the games for the game fans' liking. Some people just thought it was just like a middling action adventure flick. I loved it. I love all these kinds of like pulpy action adventure movies. I love Tom Holland. I love Mark Wahlberg's work. I just thought it was just a great fun night at the cinema. Really liked it. I've never played the games in my life, and I honestly personally don't care if this is similar to the games or not, because I just want a good fun action adventure pulp, and that's what I got with this one. Checked out the 4K disc as well, and it of course looks and sounds fantastic. It is a Sony release after all, and they are probably the most outstanding in their field when it comes to 4K discs. Of course, you know, they helped pioneer the format, of course. I would recommend this movie. I loved it. I had a fun time, and I definitely recommend giving it a go if you haven't yet. We've also got the new Blu-ray release of Marry Me, starring Owen Wilson and Jennifer Lopez. A betrayed female pop star slated to marry her pop star lover on stage instead marries a stranger from the audience. A high school math teacher whose life is thrust into the limelight against the odds, their sham relationship develops into something real before the inevitable conflicts threaten their happiness. You guys know I'm a huge fan of my rom-coms. Just adore rom-coms. Love Owen Wilson, love J-Lo. This is her grand return to the rom-com, and I adored this movie. It's not the best movie ever made, it's not the best rom-com ever made, but it's just a nice, fun, delightful, sweet movie. It's exactly the kind of movie that I hoped it would be. It's got comedy, it's got drama, it's got great performances, and I just adored it. I think it's a movie that I'm going to go back to over and over and over again, because it is just a sweet, warm film. This has only been released on Blu-ray, so there is no 4K edition of this available, but I don't think it really needs a 4K release of this. The Blu-ray is perfectly fine. If you love your rom-coms, all this kind of stuff, I would definitely seek this out because, again, I loved it. We've also got Tom Clancy's Without Remorse, starring Michael B. Jordan. An elite Navy SEAL turned CIA seeks to avenge his girlfriend's murder at the hands of a Baltimore drug lord, only to find himself drawn inside a larger conspiracy. So Without Remorse, it stars the fantastic Michael B. Jordan, of course, and is based on a work by Tom Clancy. You know what to expect with a Tom Clancy movie: action, adventure, espionage, political thriller kind of thing. Michael B. Jordan, of course, delivers a fantastic performance in this, as always. The movie, it's not great. This was released direct to Amazon Prime. It's a Paramount movie that I guess was shopped out to Amazon Prime as an exclusive, but it's now made its way onto Blu-ray, which is interesting because a lot of these movies that have been kind of delegated to Amazon or other streaming services have only wound up with DVD releases here in Australia, but this one has wound up with a Blu-ray. But I welcome it though, because this is a movie that looks great on Blu-ray. Great action scenes, explosions, all that kind of stuff. It looks great. It's just not the best movie. We've seen this movie over and over again. This political spy thriller. A guy gets involved in something that leads to this wider conspiracy that spirals out of control. It's not the best, but it's enjoyable enough. A nice, easy, like Friday night or a Sunday night action thriller. Michael B. Jordan, again, is fantastic as always. So if you like this kind of movie, I definitely check it out. Just don't expect the greatest movie ever. Next up, we have got The Addams Family 2. The Addams get tangled up in more wacky adventures and find themselves involved in hilarious run-ins with all sorts of unsuspecting characters. Sequel to the 2019 animated film, The Addams Family. I was not a big fan of this one. Really didn't like this at all. I didn't really like the first one either. I think this is kind of one of the most uninspired, if not the most uninspired takes on the Addams Family property kind of ever made. It's bottom of the barrel potty humor, kids stuff, very, very much aimed at kids. It lacks any of the kind of dark, gritty nature of the original series or the Tim Burton movies. The comedy certainly isn't up to scratch, the great satirical comedy that has hallmarked Addams Family movies over the years. But look, I did have to request to have this in the collection because I love the Addams Family. I had the previous movie in my collection and I just wanted to own this one. Look, if you're into the Addams Family, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Just don't expect too much. If you like the first Addams Family movie, you might like this one. I just think, look, this is a movie where the Addams Family get in a camper van and they go off on a road trip, very similar to the old animated series. But I feel like this just kind of strays too far from what we know to be the Addams Family. It just doesn't shout Addams Family at all. But again, decently animated. It's well animated and looks beautiful on Blu-ray. So if you're a fan of this, I'd say definitely pick it up. We've also got the 4K release of BBC's The Green Planet, narrated by David Attenborough. Dive into a world where a single life can last 1,000 years with David Attenborough. See things no eye has ever seen and discover the dramatic, beautiful plant life of Earth. You all know I love my BBC nature documentaries, specifically the more recent stuff that's been made, I guess, over the last 10 or 20 years. Planet Earth, Frozen Planet, Dynasties, etc., etc., and particularly these ones that have been narrated by the great David Attenborough. He is my all-time favourite. I have collected every single one of his releases on DVD and Blu-ray and 4K, whatever the best format is that they're on. I own them all, and I had to get The Green Planet into the collection. This is an astounding series. Absolutely gorgeous visuals. Filmed, I believe, the BBC is filming their stuff in 8K now, and then, of course, released on 4K. And this is just one of the best, most lush, beautiful documentaries ever made. I love these series, and on IMDb, I'm looking at it right now, it's got like a 9.5, which is absolutely astounding. I love this. If you love your nature series, this one is an absolute must-have to get in your collection. The only thing that I feel that the Australian editions of these BBC series series are lacking is no slipcovers. The BBC editions have gorgeous slipcovers, so I have to kind of track them down some other way. And they also don't include the Blu-ray discs, only the 4K discs. But other than that, I'm happy to have this in my collection. I'm up to date now. There's a couple more that are coming out very, very soon. But I just love these so much. And the great thing about these nature documentaries too is that they are just absolutely pure demo material for your 4K setups. These are the discs that I set my 4K, colors and all that kind of stuff to on my panels, and it's the stuff that I use to show off the new TV or the new player to people who come over and want to check out the 4K tally or something like that. Pure demo material, reference quality stuff. Pick this up. We also have the new 4K reissue of John Carpenter's Escape from LA, starring Kurt Russell. Snake Plissken is once again called in by the United States government to recover a potential doomsday device from Los Angeles, now an autonomous island where undesirables are deported. Escape from LA is, of course, the sequel to the classic early 1980s film Escape from New York. This one was made in the late 1990s, about 15 years later. It's one of those cases where the original is like a, kind of a lower budget indie sort of film, and then they make the remake, they do a sequel with the studio. So it's bigger, it's more bombastic, it's more explosive. It's not as good though. It's not a better movie in, most cases. That's kind of the way that these go. But I do love this movie. It's a lot of fun. I really like this 4K transfer. The original Blu-ray is awful. It's very off-white. It's kind of like, very sort of murky looking. There's no real fine texture or detail or anything. I watched it not long ago and it was awful. But this new 4K transfer is just absolutely astounding. Black levels are amazing. The color, the HDR pass on these colors, big explosions, reds and yellows and oranges just absolutely burst. They look fantastic, and look, I would highly recommend this. If you already own this on Blu-ray, pick up the 4K. If you don't own this movie at all, this is the way to go. So much fun. Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, you cannot go wrong. And finally from Kicks, we have got the 50th anniversary release of the Godfather trilogy remastered in 4K. The box set, of course, includes the 3 Godfather films, The Godfather Part 2, and The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. It also includes a bonus disc with hours and hours of bonus features, including a bunch of brand new features exclusive to this collection, including a couple of behind-the-scenes featurettes, a featurette on the remastering of the films, and a series of comparisons between the restorations. Alright, these are another batch of films that you just have to say, what else is there to say about these? These are some of the greatest movies ever made, particularly The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Part 3 as well. I enjoy it. I don't think it's quite as bad as everyone makes it out to be over the years. Of course, the third one is included in here in both of its forms, including The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone, which is the recent sort of final cut of The Godfather Part 3. It's a version that Ford Coppola has always wanted to kind of get out there, kind of what he did with Apocalypse Now with the final cut. Basically, it's that kind of equivalent, but The Godfather Part 3. The original theatrical version of Godfather Part 3 is also included on the disc as a bonus feature, but it too has been restored to the same level as all the other movies included in this set. And let me tell you, these movies have never ever looked this good. They have gone back and done a complete new restoration of these. They seem to do a restoration of these like every 10 years, but they've gone back to the original film elements and completely cleaned them up with this brand new 4K master of each of the movies, and they just look absolutely gorgeous. They are so filmic and so rich and so colorful. Surprisingly, I never realized how colorful these movies are, particularly the uses of like the warm sort of oranges and yellows and stuff like that, and the layers of film grain are just stunning. These are probably the most cinematic filmic looking transfers I've ever seen on 4K, and I would highly recommend picking these up. Even if you already do own these movies on any other format, I have owned them on DVD, I've owned them on Blu-ray, and now I own them on 4K, which is absolutely fantastic. I really like this box set here, and it's fairly affordable. For what it is, I would highly recommend picking this one up. And with that, that is everything that has been sent over to me from kicks.com.au most recently. If you want to, again, head over to kicks.com.au, you can use the code DAVE15 to get 15% off your entire order at checkout. Now, let's have a look at the most recent releases that have been sent over to me from Viavision. Firstly, we've got the brand new release of The Spanish Princess, the complete series on Blu-ray. This is a third in a collection of series based on the works of Philippa Gregory, which come under the banner of the Cousins War series. This one follows Catherine of Aragon, the strong-willed Princess of Spain, who is promised in marriage to the English Prince Arthur. When he dies suddenly, the throne seems lost until she sets sights on the new heir, the charismatic and headstrong Prince Harry. So, The Spanish Princess is the third in a line of miniseries that have been based on the works by Philippa Gregory, which come under the banner of the Cousins War. These are all based on the queens and the princesses of the Tudor years, and they all kind of just, she's written a whole bunch of novels, and each one of these is based on like one or two of the novels in the series. And this is the third one. It follows the White Queen and the White Princess, both of which have been available on Blu-ray previously. This is a worldwide debut on Blu-ray for The Spanish Princess. I'm so happy we've got it, so I can add it to my collection with the other ones that I own. I haven't watched the entire series of this, but I have watched the other ones, and these are such gorgeous shows produced for the Stars Network, and they are just lavishly designed and gorgeously shot, and they look stunning on Blu-ray. Took a very quick look at this one on Blu-ray. Again, haven't had time to watch the whole series, but this looks stunning. There is a DVD available of this as well, but I would highly recommend picking up the Blu-ray, and if you can get the other two series, I believe they're out of print now. If you can pick them up, I definitely would recommend watching those before this one, but if you haven't seen those, you can definitely enjoy this one by itself, because they all focus on kind of the different periods of history and different characters, different actors and stuff in it, of course. Jodie Comer was in the second series. Charlotte Hope stars as Catherine of Aragon in this one right here. But again, this can be enjoyed by itself, but I would definitely recommend checking out all of the series in order to kind of get that full experience. I believe there's another one coming as well, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm not too sure when we can expect it. We've also got a worldwide exclusive Blu-ray release of Chapelwaite Season 1. Set in the 1850s, the series follows Captain Charles Boone, who relocates his family of 3 children to his ancestral home in the small, seemingly sleepy town of Preacher's Corners, Maine, after his wife dies at sea. However, Charles will soon have to confront the secrets of his family's sordid history and fight to end the darkness that has plagued the Boones for generations. Alright, this series is based again on a Stephen King short called Jerusalem's Lot, which is, I believe, a prequel to Salem's Lot, set like 100 years in the future. I'm not sure how much of a connection it has to Salem's Lot. Never read any of them. I've never seen the Salem's Lot film or anything like that. So this one is based on this short story, but it's expanded into like this 10-episode miniseries. This is marked as Season 1, so I believe there must be a second season coming up. I'm not too sure how much this expands on the novel, or of the short story, or whether it will go into the territory of Salem's Lot or what. I'm not too sure. Now, I haven't had the time again to go through this entire series. I've had a very quick look. This looks fantastic. Looks like a really great, lavish, epic series. Again, I really love a great, dramatic, sort of supernatural thriller, sort of period drama, and that's certainly what this is here. Adrian Brody is terrific in this, as always. Gives this really great, sort of creepy, intense performance, and this is shot beautifully. It looks beautiful. It's so lavishly produced. I can't wait to get through this whole series. So it definitely feels Stephen King. I'm a big fan of Stephen King stuff. It definitely feels like Stephen King, and I'm really looking forward to diving into this. But the Blu-ray looks gorgeous. There's a DVD edition available as well. I'd highly recommend picking up the Blu-ray. It's over 3 discs, so there's a lot of space for this to breathe in here too. And look, if you're a Stephen King fan, check it out. We have Anger Management Collection 1, starring Charlie Sheen. Anger Management follows Charlie Goodson, a non-traditional therapist specializing in anger management. He has a successful private practice, holding sessions with his group of primary patient regulars every week, as well as performing pro bono counseling for an inmate group at state prison. Anger Management is one of those great shows that feels like it was on television for years and years and years and years, but only in reality had 2 seasons. The first season was like a standard length season of about 20 episodes or something like that. Second season had like 100 eps or 110 episodes or something. Absolutely crazy. I think the network, which I believe was FX, Can't remember exactly, but the network loved how well it did in the first season, so they just completely like issued a 110 odd episode second season, which ran over only a couple of years. It must have been nightly, I'm not too sure about it all, but this is a fun show. This is the show that Charlie Sheen went on to after he left 2.5 Men, after all that, you know, drama that arose over that show. He went over onto this, and I thought it was fun. I really liked it at the time, and because there are so many episodes, it felt like it was just on for years. I feel like maybe Channel 9, which played it here in Australia, I have a feeling that maybe Channel 9 did space it out over like maybe 3, 4, 5 years, because it was just always on. New episodes were always on. But this is a fun show. It's very funny. Charlie Sheen is really funny in it. It is, of course, a remake, a series remake of the Adam Sandler film, Anger Management, which also starred Jack Nicholson. It takes that same premises of a guy with anger management issues running an anger management clinic or whatever else. But it's a lot of fun. This is the first volume, just released on DVD. I believe this has season 1 and then like half of season 2 across 8 discs, and then they are going to issue the collection 2, I think, next month, which has the remainder of season 2 in there. But again, great show, so much fun. If you love your sitcoms, if you like Charlie Sheen, if you like 2.5 Men, I definitely recommend this one. We've also got the complete series of Earth 2 from Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. Embark on the quest to find a new home planet for humanity in the year 2192. A small team puts together an expedition to found a new civilization 22 light years in the future. But after their ship crash lands on the wrong side of the planet G889, the colonists quickly discover that their new home already has some very strange and hostile inhabitants. This box set includes all 21 episodes of Earth 2 split across 8 discs. So Earth 2 is of course from Steven Spielberg's Amblin Entertainment. I don't know how much input Spielberg actually had into this show, but he produced a lot of really great shows, or Amblin produced a lot of really great kind of sci-fi shows in the middle 90s, early 2000s, and this is very similar to those kinds of shows like Taken. Viavision have been releasing a bunch of the old Amblin stuff on DVD recently. They got amazing stories out there. There are another couple of ones that they got out there as well, so really great to get my hands on Earth 2. Didn't really love what I've seen of this. It is a very typically mid-90s sci-fi series. It got axed after 1 season, so it's obviously not really that great. It very much feels like Battlestar Galactica or, you know, any of those other number of mid-90s sort of TV series. I'm not really a huge fan of, you know, sci-fi stuff or sci-fi series, particularly the stuff from, you know, a lot of really dated stuff. But it is a bit of fun. The performances in here aren't great, but the stories are a little bit fun. They're entertaining, they're exciting. I love the whole concept of all of this as well. The DVD doesn't look great. This has been issued on DVD in the past by Viavision. I believe they probably use the exact same ports. These, I guess, have not been upgraded to HD. I don't believe they're available on Blu-ray anywhere. But you know, you can own the series here on DVD if you're a fan of it, or if you're a fan of the Amblin stuff. Definitely worth having a look at, but don't expect too much from it because it's not particularly great. But again, I'm very happy to have this in my collection. We've got a remastered DVD release of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson's Fireball XL5. The year is 2062 and World Space Patrol ship Fireball XL5 is assigned to Sector 25, where intrepid pilot Steve Zodiac, ably assisted by Dr. Venus and Professor Matthew Mattick, faces such dangers as planetomic missiles, explosive gas clouds, space spies, and alien races both warlike and benign. We've got another great Jerry and Sylvia Anderson series on DVD in its fully remastered form. This is over a 5-disc set. This is a black and white series. It's got every single episode of this, but they look absolutely stunning on DVD. These were recently released on Blu-ray over in the UK from Network, who have a Blu-ray set out there. I believe that this DVD collection uses the exact same masters. Would be nice to get these on Blu-ray here, but hey, these look perfectly fine on DVD. Of course, Viavision are currently releasing a whole bunch of these old Jerry and Sylvia Anderson series to DVD, and I'm kind of collecting them as they bring them out. If you're a fan of all of these, I'd highly recommend picking this one up because it is really good, and I just love the idea of these. They're so campy, so goofy, so funny, and just so much fun, and I can't wait to keep collecting these as we go along. We've got another Jerry and Sylvia Anderson series here, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. In 2068, the indestructible Captain Scarlet leads the agents of Spectrum in a war of nerves against the Mysterons of Mars. Okay, so it's another Jerry and Sylvia Anderson marionette show. Again, everything that I said about the last one can be said to this one right here. This is one from the late 1960s and it's so much fun. I think this is probably my favorite of them all, next to Thunderbirds. So I'm very happy that this one is now out on DVD. Again, I believe there's probably a Blu-ray of this issued overseas, but we're just getting the DVD here in Australia. But these still look good, just like the other series I've just speaking about. These look great on DVD as well. I'm happy to have them in any form. I'm really looking forward to going through all these. There's only like 30 episodes of this one, so it's a quick and easy and very fun watch. Again, a couple more of these Jerry and Sylvia Anderson series coming soon. I think Stingray's coming out in about a month's time, if it's not out already. I think that's on its way to me now, and I can't wait to get into that one as well. Next up, we have got the 1979 tally movie of All Quiet on the Western Front. At the rise of World War I, German patriot Paul Barmer and his friends enlist in the Imperial German Army. In search of adventure and eager to assert the superiority of their nation, the young men endure a brutal training camp and soon find themselves face to face with the full horrors of war when they are sent to the front lines to fight and likely die. Alright, so this is the tally movie version of All Quiet on the Western Front. As I said, the original film version of this was made like 1920s, must have been 1920s, because it was a silent feature. That is a absolutely beloved movie, but this tally movie version is also very, very well renowned. It runs for a bit over 2 hours, but it feels so epic in nature, especially for a TV version. It famously stars Ernest Borgnine in one of the lead roles as well. This is such a really harrowing kind of anti-war tale. It's only PG, this television version. Of course, you can't get away with too much on television. I'd really like to see like a more contemporary version of this because it's a very, very harrowing tale. But again, I really like my war stuff and I love collecting sort of tally movies and miniseries and stuff like that. So this is a really great one to get into my collection and it's out there for you to pick up as well. We've also got the DVD of Lady Jane, starring Helena Bonham Carter and Cary Elwes. The story of Lady Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for only 9 days. Okay, so I really enjoyed this movie. It is, of course, a period melodrama starring Helena Bonham Carter from the the mid-1980s. I do like this kind of stuff. It's an epic film too. It goes for about 2.5 hours. I do like this kind of stuff. Sometimes melodramas aren't exactly my thing, but I do like a kind of a slow burning epic, particularly when it's focusing on like, you know, royalty from the 1500s, the 1600s England. I think that's always so fascinating. Helena Bonham Carter I really love, and she delivers such a fantastic early performance here too. And Cary Elwes, who is just such an underrated actor, delivers a fantastic performance here, as he always does. I really, really loved this. I would have loved a Blu-ray release of this. This is just like a really great epic movie from Paramount Pictures. So it's not a tally movie or anything like that. This is just a really great sweeping epic movie. Would have loved a Blu-ray edition of this, but alas, we're gonna have to stick with the DVD for now. If you're interested in these kinds of things, I'd definitely recommend. We've also got a DVD issue of the 1977 version of The Man in the Iron Mask, starring Richard Chamberlain, Patrick McCoogan, and Jenny Agutter. This is the acclaimed film of Alexandre Dumas's classic story about good and evil twin brothers. One is the imprisoned man in the hideous Iron Mask, the other is his foppish, elegant twin, King Louis XIV of France. So this is one of many versions of The Man in the Iron Mask that have been made over the years. There was another one made in the late 1930s. There was one made in the kind of mid-1990s. This, of course, is the one from 1977. It's a tally movie, so it's not the best of the bunch. I actually think it's probably slightly better than the 90s version, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio and John Malkovich and a number of others as well. That's not one I always really particularly loved. I really love the 1930s version, but this one is really quite good as well. For a tally movie, you'd think it'd be pretty long and kind of epic and drawn out, but it only goes for about 100 minutes, I think, and it's pretty good. I feel like it's a real loose adaptation on the novel too. It's quite different to the other adaptations of it, but I really like this one. There's some good performances in here. It's also directed by Mike Newell, who directed Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, so got some really great talent behind this one. It is a really intriguing story, very dark story as well. This is only a G-rated version of the story though, so of course, again, for television audiences, they can't really push the boundaries too much, but it's enjoyable. If you like this story, if you've seen the other version and like them, I would recommend checking this one out. And we've also got the DVD of Buster, starring Phil Collins and Julie Walters. Based on actual events surrounding the Great Train Robbery of 1963, Buster follows the exploits of a lovable husband and father who provides for his family by stealing. Wanted for his involvement in one of the most daring robberies of all time, Buster must pack up his clan and hightail it to Mexico. But when his wife grows tired of sunshine and margaritas and moves back to England, Buster faces a tough choice: remain a free man in Mexico or face the music in London so he can one day be with his family again. I got to admit, I'm a huge Phil Collins fan. I know he gets a bad rap, his music gets a bad rap, but there's just something about his music that I absolutely love. I think he's so fun and so charming. And this movie right here, Buster, this was his acting debut. He only did a few films. He didn't do many films. But this is his acting debut. It's a movie that has copped a lot of criticism over the years, and rightly so. It's not the best film. He's not the best actor, but it is an affable and charming British rom-com, which I absolutely love. I think it's so much fun. Phil Collins is so great in this. So is Julie Harris. They work off each other really, really well. It's just a really nice little rom-com that I just really enjoy. And it's great to finally get a chance to own this on DVD because, as I said, big Phil Collins fan. I've never actually owned this. I think it's been out of print for a very, very long time. A Blu-ray would have been great, but a DVD is going to have to do just fine. It's quirky, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's lovely. I would definitely recommend this one, particularly if you are a Phil Collins tragic like myself. We've got a DVD release of Fanny Hill, the miniseries. Fanny Hill is the story of a young country girl who falls into a life of prostitution in bawdy 18th century London. Forced to take a succession of lovers to survive, she slowly rises to respectability, but only after enjoying wholeheartedly the pursuit of her craft. This is the most recent adaptation of John Cleland's 1748 novel of the same name, and is adapted by Andrew Davies, the writer of Bridget Jones's Diary and Pride and Prejudice. There have been numerous versions of this made over the years. There have been some fairly erotic versions. There have been some pretty tame versions as well. This one kind of comes in the middle. It is pretty full on for a television thing, but it's also not as explicit as some of the other versions of this that there are out there. This is an MA15 plus for strong scenes of sexual nature. I think this is a pretty decent little mini-series. You know, I like my mini-series. I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's the worst one that is out there. I think it's a really good story, and I think it's told in a really good, kind of respectful way for the modern age. This is a very relevant and very timely story, and I think that's why this kind of gets told over and over and over again. It is timeless, but particularly right now, I feel like with all these movements going on in the world at the moment, all these fantastic movements, I feel like that this kind of finds a new place in the world. It's a decent miniseries. If you've ever seen any of the other ones and you've liked them, or you've read the book and you've liked it, I would recommend this. I haven't read the book. I haven't really seen any of the other versions, but I thought this one was pretty decent. I'd like to check out some of the earlier versions of this. We've also got Jesus of Nazareth, the miniseries. Beginning before the Nativity and extending through the crucifixion and resurrection, Jesus of Nazareth brings to life all the majesty and sweeping drama of the life of Jesus, as told in the Gospels. Featuring an all-star cast including Robert Powell, Anne Bancroft, Ernest Borgnine, Laurence Olivier, Christopher Plummer, Anthony Quinn, Rod Steiger, James Earl Jones, and Peter Ustinov. Alright, so this really is a mini-series. This is a grand, epic retelling of the story of Jesus Christ from the books of Genesis in the Bible. This is a 4-episode miniseries that goes for like 6.5 hours. So it's huge, it's epic, and it is lauded as probably the greatest telling of the life of Jesus Christ ever put to the screen. This is fantastic. I'm not particularly religious myself, but I have a real fascination with stories from the Bible, biblical stories, and I really love biblical adaptations on the screen, particularly in this big, grand, epic nature. And I think this is a really great retelling of these stories from the Bible. Robert Powell delivers a really fantastic performance, as does pretty much everyone in here. Now, this is a really respectful telling of the tale as well. I'm not too sure of the history of this. I'm not too sure if there are any controversies surrounding it, like there were with some of the numerous other adaptations of these stories, but I do understand that this is a very beloved retelling of these stories right here. Video quality on this isn't great. Again, this is a mini-series from the late 1970s, 77, I believe, and it doesn't really hold up that well. It has not been remastered properly. I think that this would pull up looking really nice if they went back to the original elements, if they still exist, if they cleaned it up and everything. But if you do want to own this and you do want to check it out, you can, and this is probably the best we're going to see this maybe ever. So definitely have a look. And finally, from Viavision, we have got Bloodbath at the House of Death. A cult parody from Britain's master of zany comedy, Kenny Everett, spoofing classic horror films, arrives for the first time on DVD in Australia. What in the hell is going on at Headstone Manor? In this hilarious spoof of every horror fan's favourite films, a team of mad scientists are investigating paranormal phenomenon in the mysterious manor. Bloodbath at the House of Death is an absolute cult favourite amongst horror fans. It is, of course, a horror comedy spoof. I'm not a particular fan of the kind of horror movies that this one is a spoof of. We're talking about like the 70s, sort of 60s Hammer horror stuff. Not huge on that. So in turn, I'm not really huge on this movie itself. It's not a really great movie. It's kind of over the top. It's very hammy. It's very cheesy, very corny. I think that's the point of it all, though. It is enjoyable if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of these kind of spoof movies as well. I think you'll get a lot out of this. But for me, I just didn't particularly really enjoy this one that much, but I think it's a good one to have in the collection, particularly as like a cult curio. Okay, so that is everything that's been sent into me from Viavision over the last couple of months. Thanks to the team over there for sending those into me. Now let's take a look at a bunch of stuff I've picked up from Amazon over the last couple of months. They're doing a really great deal at the moment with Prime. I think it's been going for a couple of months. I think it might only have maybe a month left on it. I'm kind of secretly hoping that they extend the deal to like be a permanent thing. Usually when you have Prime, if you want to buy anything, import anything from the global store, you have to spend over $50 to get free shipping. At the moment, they're allowing you to spend it whatever and get free shipping no matter what. So I could just buy a Blu-ray for $10 and I get it with free shipping, which is fantastic. And this is from US or UK or wherever else you can get stuff from the global store. First up, let's take a look at a couple of titles that I picked up from the global store from Amazon UK. These were only, again, like $10, $12 each. Picked them up for a really good deal. Firstly, we have Ammonite. This one stars Kate Winslet and Saoirse Ronan. 1840s England, acclaimed but overlooked fossil hunter Mary Anning and a young woman sent to convalesce by the sea develop an intense relationship, altering both of their lives forever. I've heard nothing but great things about this movie. I love Kate Winslet, I love Saoirse Ronan, so I had to pick this one up. We've got another Saoirse Ronan film right here. It's called On Chesil Beach. Don't know too much about this, but again, I really love Saoirse Ronan, so I had to pick this one up for only $10. It's set in 1962 England and focused on a young couple who find their idyllic romance colliding with issues of sexual freedom and societal pressure, leading to an awkward and fateful wedding night. Again, I looked into it, nothing but good reviews on this one, so I had to check this one out. And this one right here is one that I've wanted to see for quite a while now. It's the personal history of David Copperfield. Looks like a fun, kind of quirky reimagining of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield. It's got an all-star cast of British talent, including Dev Patel, Peter Capaldi, Hugh Laurie, Tilda Swinton, and Ben Whishaw. This just looks like the fun kind of British kind of comedy drama kind of movie that I really, really love. And again, I love Charles Dickens stuff, so I'm interested to see what take this puts on that classic tale. Next up, we have got Small Soldiers. This is one of my favorite films from childhood that I have not watched for a very, very, very long time. It's directed by Joe Dante. It's kind of like the adult version of Toy Story. Not really an adult film, it is a kid's film, but it is very dark. It's got a bit of crude humor in there as well. Some great action, adventure, violence in there. It's about these toys that come to life and then go to war against each other. I love it. I'm so excited to finally check this one out again. I also picked up The Great Beauty. This is an Italian film by director Paolo Sorrentino. I believe that this won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film when it was released a number of years ago. This focuses on this like 65-year-old journalist who has lived this lavish life, kind of coming to terms with the fact that he is now getting older and that his life has to change a bit. Haven't seen it, but apparently it is amazing. It's a gorgeous love letter to Rome. I love Rome, of course. I am of Italian heritage, so anything Italy I am drawn to, and I'm so excited to check this one out when I get a chance. All right, now let's take a look at a bunch of stuff that I've picked up from the global store on Amazon US. Firstly, I finally picked up Paramount's new Snoopy collection release. This includes the 4 original big screen adventures. So these are the 4 theatrically released Peanuts cartoons. We've got Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown and Don't Come Back, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, A Boy Named Charlie Brown, and Snoopy Come Home. Now, 2 of these were previously released by Umbrella in Australia, but they were in the incorrect aspect ratio, so it made biting the bullet on this box set just a little bit easier. I think I only paid $30 for this, which is pretty good. It was on sale, like a very limited time thing. Picked it up and finally very happy to have this in my collection to add alongside the other Peanut shorts that I own on Blu-ray. I also picked up the Mill Creek collection of My Girl and My Girl 2. Don't know too much about these movies. I know that these are childhood favorites of many from the 1990s. Very, very sad. I believe the girl is dying or something like that. I know that the 2 kids fall in love and then one of them is dying or something like that. I'm not too sure. But I know that these are beloved movies and they're ones I've wanted to see for a very, very long time. So it's great to finally get these in my collection. I think this was like only $9 or $10 or something like that, and I thought I have to pick this up. It's region free, so why not? Now also the Amazon Global Store have been doing some really great sales on Warner Archive Collection Blu-rays. These are usually quite expensive. They can go between $30 and $40. They're made on demand titles, really classic movies that are only finally getting released on Blu-ray now through this Warner Archive kind of print on demand sort of a thing that Warner has got going on. I try to pick them up whenever I can. Whenever I see one on special, I pick them up because these are all really, really great movies. Let's just have a very brief look at the ones I've picked up. Some of these were $15, some of them were $20, some of them were $23, $18, kind of in that realm right there. Can't exactly remember what cost me what, but I do know I have picked up a handful of these recently, and I hope to pick up a handful more of them as these become available on special. Again, I don't really want to be paying $30, $40 for these, but when they come up at $15, $20, I have to pull the trigger. Firstly, we've got In the Good Old Summertime. This stars Judy Garland and Van Johnson. Don't know too much about this. I know that it's a lavish Technicolor musical starring Judy Garland, and that is all I need to know to pick this one up. I also picked up Ladies They Talk About, starring Barbara Stanwyck. I am a fan of Barbara Stanwyck, especially her early works. This is a pre-code crime drama from the early 1930s, which focuses on a women's prison. This is something that was never really seen that much in cinema back then. Of course, pre-code movies were all about pushing the boundaries, and this one is certainly no exception. There's violence in this. There's kind of flirtatious sexual stuff going on in here as well. Stuff that you certainly wouldn't have seen from classic Hollywood movies post-code. So I always am interested in pre-code movies, and whenever I can get my hands on one, I absolutely will. I've also picked up It Happened at the World's Fair. This is a really great Elvis movie, probably one of my favorite Elvis movies. There are just an absolute lack of Elvis movies on Blu-ray at the moment. There might be 4 or 5 of them, and whenever they do reissue one, I have to grab it. I've got them all on DVD, but I've got to own them on Blu-ray. These always pull up looking really, really beautiful. I picked up one called Step by Step, released in 1946. This is a film noir. Don't really know too much about that other than that. I believe it's about spies and Nazis and all this kind of crazy stuff kind of made post-World War II. Again, You guys know me, I love my film noirs, and whenever I can get one for cheap, I absolutely will. We picked up Escape from Fort Bravo. This is a Civil War Western film released in the middle 50s. It stars William Holden, Eleanor Parker, John Forsythe, and is directed by John Sturges. That is all I need to know about this one to pull the trigger. And finally, we picked up Madame Curie. Now, I wasn't initially going to pick this one up because it does look like a really kind of sappy, melodramatic biopic. The kind of things that we know these days we call Oscar bait, while these still existed back in the 1940s. But this is a movie that stars Greer Garson, Walter Pidgeon. They did a lot of movies together, particularly, most notably, Mrs. Miniver, which was released the year before this and won the Best Picture Oscar. Really great war drama. They were fantastic in that, and I'm kind of interested to check out more of their works. This is also directed by Mervyn LeRoy, who is a legendary Hollywood filmmaker from the golden era, and I think that just kind of made me pull the trigger. Now, this one isn't a Warner Archive collection, but it is a classic movie that was released in 1948. It's only just been released on Blu-ray from Universal. I believe it was an old MGM film, but I thought I'd just throw it into this section right here. This is a movie called State of the Union, which follows an industrialist who runs for president. It's a movie that I'm really interested in checking out, particularly because it's one that stars Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn, and they're both terrific in everything they ever did, and also stars Van Johnson. But most of all, it's directed by Frank Capra, who is my favorite old Hollywood director next to Alfred Hitchcock, and every time I can get one of his movies on Blu-ray, I have to snap it up straight away. I think this was on special for about $16, so it was an absolute no-brainer. And that is everything that we're going to be covering in this video right here. Thanks again to Kix and Viavision for sending over all the stuff that has been covered in this video. I did do another 2 videos this month, one where I covered all the latest Umbrella releases, and another where I covered all of the most recent imprint releases from Viavision. So if you want to check them out, you can check them out by the link at the end right here, and I will be back next month with a bunch more videos, I'm sure, covering all the latest releases. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.